Recording? There it is. All right. All this is talking about is when we have, say, a linear equation right here, tell your neighbor, say if this was at -2, if I wanted to shift this line up 4 units, I want to shift the line up 4 units, where would it end up? Tell your neighbor what you think, real quick, 10 seconds. I want to shift the whole thing, not change the curve, not change the slope. All right. All right, on point, please. And raise your hand if you have an idea on how we could figure it out. Isabel. Go up 4. Go up. Go up 4. What would be at 2 in particular? What's this point called? Y-intercept. So basically all we have to do to know how to shift this is to look at a reference point that is always going to be able to be pretty obvious to us. This is a pretty obvious reference point, right? But this is our y-intercept, right? So if I am shifting this whole thing up with the same slope, I can look at the y-intercept and say, well, I got to move that up 4, because that's what I was asking you to do. And then there's my new y-intercept. And how would I get the same approximate slope? You look to see what it looks like. It's up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, so up 1 over 1. And if you have the same slope, you have parallel lines. All we're doing is, here was our f of x, here's our g of x, and this is the step we have to make. Our new function g of x is just, now watch, it's f of x plus 4. You take the function that you had before, you add 4 to it, and you end up at your new function. This notation is going to be the trickiest part, but we will get to that. Okay. Everybody see at least the idea of shifting the line up. You could look at the y-intercept and say I have to shift up 4, so the y-intercept is going to be up 4, right? Okay, that's the key idea. Now, let's look at this one. I want you to first match the function with the graph. Let's start with linear. So which one of these graphs matches with 2x minus 3? I want you to circle it on your paper. Make a little star there that one matches. All right. It's good. It's on point here. It's great. Who has an idea which one matches? Yeah, Jackie?
The first one.
The first one, what was a clue?
The y-intercept is -3.
Good. So we just remembered that the y-intercept is that number off by itself. It's -3. So I look here. The only one with -3 as a y-intercept is this one. So that is what matches. Now, if I said to you that I want you to find a new function called g of x, that is our f of x shifted up 6. Shifted up 6. Which one of these would it be? So essentially what I'm asking you to do is, I'm saying your new function that we're going to have after we shift it is going to be our f of x plus 6. We're going to shift it up 6. Because we just have to add a number to the end. We have to add our change, our vertical shift, to the end of the function, and that just makes it shift up. So let's see. Which one of them matches there, Genevieve?
The bottom left.
The bottom left. You see how it's the same slope?
Yeah.
The y-intercept's a -3 here. Now it's a +3. I went up 6. Now watch this. All we have to do, what is f of x in this case? F of x? 2x minus 3, right? So we take f of x, 2x minus 3, we add 6 to it, and we get our new function. What is our answer going to be? 2x, -3 and +6. 6 minus 3, +3. We did it graphically in our head, just seeing that we just had to lift it up 6. But if you look at it, you can find the new g of x function by just taking f of x, add 6, put the formula in there, simplify, and you got it. Can we do this? That one's pretty simple, pretty easy. Thumbs up, sideways down. Okay, we got to see more too. Any questions coming up? Any thoughts? Retief? Retief. All right, now I want you to look at this one. We have 2x, 2 to the x plus 1. This is an exponential. Which one matches? Tell your neighbor, you got 10 seconds. Which one matches over on the left side over here? All right, bring it back, bring it back. Caden, which one matches? Top right. That is correct. What was your clue? You know this. Good. This is key. ASM or ASYN. This number is always the asymptote. Okay. Yeah. So we have the asymptote at positive 1. It then slants up. Another key point we could look at is that it has a y-intercept there at 2. Okay. So I want you to do this. I want you to find new g of x that takes f of x and it shifts it down 1. Which one matches? Tell your neighbor, 10 seconds. I want you to take f of x, shift it down 1 to find our new g of x function, and one of these graphs matches g of x. Tell your neighbor. All right, we got an idea? Who can help us? Who can help us with this one? Yeah, Jordan. Bottom left, right here? Yeah. We call this our g of x because it takes f of x, and let's do it algebraically now as well. You can see that this just shifts down 1 because the asymptote was at 1. Now it's at 0, right? The y-intercept would also shift down, so you can shift it based on the asymptote. I think it's easier. And also by the y-intercept. Everything just shifts down or shifts up or down. Okay. So if we look at that, f of x is 2 to the x plus 1. Then it's minus 1. What happens to these? They cancel each other. They are 0, so it's just 2 to the x is our g of x function. That's what this function would be. Okay. So the shift only occurs when we add or subtract the value to the original function. Thumbs up, sideways, down. Good. Okay. Now let's look a little deeper. What we're talking about right now are translations. You're going to get into this much more in Math 2. Translations are a shift up, down, left, right. Right, left, right. So today we're doing up and down. We're just shifting it up and down. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to shift it left and right, and that's a little bit trickier. But today actually I think is a nice intro to it because we could talk about this a little more. A transformation is slightly different. A translation you could think of it like this. If the shape of the graph shifts up, the graph doesn't change. The line didn't change, right? We just moved it down or up. Okay. Translation, I like to think of it this way because it's like if you go to different regions around the world, different languages, you would talk about the same thing. If you talk about a house, it just has a different word in that region, right? But it's still meaning the same object. It's a house or a dog. Different words for it, different positions, movements, but it's the same line. It's the same object. Okay, just moved around. So that's what we're talking about when we're doing translations. Transformations is when we stretch it or compress it. We stretch it or compress it. That's a different action. That's coming later for you guys. Now, today is just translations. We're just shifting it up and down, vertical shift. And that's when you take the function. To find your new function, you just take it and you add or subtract some k value to the end of it, just like we did here. It was f of x plus 6, so I took f of x and I added 6. It was f of x minus 1, so I took f of x and minus 1. You get your new function from that. It's very straightforward. Okay? Good? Good? Okay. Now, let's look at this. I want you to please graph this f of x. And then I want you to shift the graph down 3 units and graph both. You're going to graph f of x and g of x. All right, first graph this y-intercept slope. Go ahead and graph it, and then shift the whole thing down 3 units. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to find that new g of x function. We'll get there. Okay, go ahead and do that, then check with your neighbor, please. if you're not sure how to graph that first line, that's a review, so I'll help you review. This here is y-intercept of 2. Positive 2 is a y-intercept. 3 is our slope, which is our rise of a run. So I'm here, I rise 3, 1, 2, 3, I run 1, and that is the f of x function. F of x. Now shift that down 3. What is the reference point that'll help us shift it? The y-intercept. So go ahead and keep that idea. I want you to do those next steps if you didn't yet. Let's see if we can get it. So the slope does not change for any of these. We're not changing any kind of slope action. You getting some examples down?
A little bit.
All right. Somebody who can describe where the new g of x function ends up? Who can help with that? Who can help with that? Yeah? Katie, help us out.
The y-intercept is at -1.
Good. So we go down 1, 2, 3. At -1, that's my new y-intercept. And then what should I do with my line? Is it going to be different? Is it going to go the opposite direction? Same slope. Same slope. Because we're just moving the whole thing down. Go ahead.
Wait, just a clarifying question.
Great.
Why did it move down 3?
Because that's what the question suggested that you do.
What the question said was true.
Say it one more time.
So we're now drawing a line with here,
Yes.
and the question said the suggested one.
So look, let's look at it closely. Given this function, which we graphed first right here. Given that function, shift the graph down 3 units. That's the part. So I actually should underline it. Shift that. So it goes down 3 units. And I'm just looking at this. This went down 3 units. So now let's remember, this is the part that is the key. This is the part, if you get this, no problem. If you get this, no problem. This is the part that's a little bit, bring it together. Okay. So watch, we have f of x is equal to this. What is our g of x going to be? It's our f of x. What? -3. I want you to find the new equation for g of x using that information right here. I got to see if you know what I'm talking about with this. You know it? Okay. This is the one I got to see if this is like the main part. If you get this right, you got it. If you don't, I'll do another. Okay, so what does that mean? What does it mean that g of x equal to the f of x minus 3? What should I put here to help me figure out the g of x function? Put the f of x in there. Okay. All right. 3x plus 2. What else? Minus 3. In this case, if we're using this model, it's f of x plus the k. The k value in this case is -3. The k value is our vertical shift. Okay? And the k is going to come up again, but in this context, we're just saying that's our vertical shift for this. So, what do we end up with? 3x? You see it? You guys all get that? Get that part? You want me to do another?
Yeah.
I heard yes. Hey, it's my job. I gotta do my job. Trying to change my job to district. This little top. Job description. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and let's do another linear. F of x is equal to -x plus 2. I'm going to have you graph that. And then for g of x is going to be a shift up 3.
All right, knock it out.
So let's graph f of x. We didn't do that yet. What is my y-intercept for f of x? 2. 1, 2. My slope is negative 1. Negative. It's the number in front. So that just means we go down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1. And we end up approximately with this line. And it's not perfect, but it works for this. Shift up 3. You guys need another minute for that? I want you to find the new g of x function as well, please. So what is g of x equal? Keith? Keith? Teeth what? Teeth-phobic? You're afraid of the teeth?
Yeah.
Phobic means afraid.
Homophobic is afraid of homes.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like afraid to even be able to discuss that aspect of like sexuality, homophobic.
Yeah.
So there's something in the world you can't talk about. Why?
That's the question in that
Wait, what's the
discussion.
spider phobia thingy again?
Arachnophobia.
I got that.
Xenophobia, that means afraid of the other, someone who's not part of your country. Xenophobia. And it's also part of like saying your country are the best. Which there's 192 countries. Everyone thinks they're the best.
What about snakes?
Snakes. All right, that discussion's done. Here we go. Shifted up 3. What am I going to do with my y-intercept? 2. Where's it going to be? 5. Right? That's our g of x. Now, what is the equation for g of x? I'm going to say it's f of x, what? Shifted up. What's our g of x going to be equal to? Thumbs up, sideways, down for this thing. Teeth? Teeth. Good. All right. We're gonna go with teeth. Oh, question. Yes.
Sorry, so I get it, but what is the difference between
G of x and f of x are just the notation to show two different things. F of x was this function. G of x is our new function after we shift it. So it's just so we don't get confused. If I called both of them f of x, it would be confusing. So f of x is generally like the original equation, original function. And when you shift it, you can change it to g of x, change it to h of x, m of x. It's just another label. Yeah? Okay, great. I love clarifying questions. How about Teef subscribe on 3?
1,
2.
2, 3.
Wait, I get to.
Subscribe.
I say 1, 2, 3. Teef subscribe on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Subscribe.
That's right.